All right, Cody. So let's go to the AFC South. I'll start the AFC South off. Where we went right, where we went wrong. I had the Titans at 10-7. Obviously, they did better. They're actually the number one seed in the AFC playoffs. They went 12-5. So, I mean, I guess it wasn't that far off. But when you talk about one seed too, I had them, I believe, at the 4 seed. I had them at 4 seed. That is a significant difference because now they get a week off. Mm-hmm. So that's huge for the Titans. So good for them, man. I'm not a huge fan of their defense. I still am not. And I'm not a huge fan of Ryan Tannehill. And so, and still not. So, we'll see what they can do, but you know what? They keep winning and good for them. The Colts, I had them at 9-8. They ended up being 9-8. You had them in the playoffs. I did not. So I'll take the win on that one. The Jaguars. I'll admit it. I liked Urban Meyer. I thought he was going to bring a completely different dynamic to the Jaguars than they have had before. I like Trevor Lawrence. I still do, mind you. I had them going 5-12. I wasn't that off. 4-13. So, or I'm sorry, 3-14. I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong one. Not as good as I thought they were going to be, but honestly, not as bad as I thought they could be as well. Because you and I, we had talked about, we thought maybe they could go 2-15, but we're like, there can't be 2-15 teams this year. And so we chose the Lions over the Jaguars. And it wasn't great. But then I chose the Texans. I thought they were even worse. I had them at 2-15. They ended up being 4-13. So the two where I went wrong on the Jaguars went to the Texans. So anyway, so I just wanted to say, I was right on the Colts. That's about it.
What did you have on the AFC and Tennessee? South? You had Tennessee winning the division, so you got that one. So I'll go from Houston up, I guess. So Houston, I had also at 2-15, but as you mentioned, they finished at 4-13. And by the way, unfortunately, they fired their head coach who got them 4 wins. That was, I think, a huge mistake. They should have given that man a raise because who else could have gotten this team 4 wins other than him? So anyways, that's besides the point. But I thought I had Houston going at 2-15. They didn't. Indianapolis, you're right. I did have them in one of the wild card spots. And actually, had they beaten the Jaguars like they were supposed to, it would have happened. I would have nailed this sucker like crazy. But of course, they did not. And they finished 9-8, as you mentioned. So you were on them and I was off. And in Jacksonville, I mean, I had them at 4-13. They finished 3-14. So, I mean, I wasn't that far off of it, but
we'll count that as a win.
Yeah. Sure. Count that as a win. Well, then we're really going to nail this one to the board because I had Tennessee at 12-5 and winning the division. So, bingo. So bing, bing on that one. So I felt like Tennessee was going to have some games where they struggled offensively, which clearly they did. Because I even mentioned with Julio Jones and AJ Brown, it's going to look disorganized, I felt like. And sure enough, man, when they got on the field, I don't think I saw Julio Jones catch more than 3 passes in a game when everybody was healthy and on the field. And unfortunately, Tennessee lost their number 1 back in Derrick Henry, who potentially could be back in the playoffs since they have a bye being the number 1 seed. So that'll be very interesting if they get him back healthy. They get a week to rest and everything now has to come through Tennessee in the AFC. So that could be a very, very, very interesting matchup for any team that they go against. But, I really felt like though Tennessee, their coach, his offensive style isn't a stretch formation or anything like that. He's more of a defensive guy, which their defense did show up in times of need. But offensively, there were times where they sputtered. Tannehill is not a great quarterback, but he's a serviceable quarterback. He's definitely better than like Baker Mayfield or any of the other middle tier quarterbacks. And had they not had some talent like AJ Brown and Derrick Henry to kind of help them in the point where they were, they probably would have finished in the bottom half of the league. Yeah. But, with them having a lot of grit and fight in them, like their coach gives them, this is what came out of it. And they're actually kind of a scary team, in my opinion, in the AFC. I really think people should take them seriously because they beat, Buffalo early on in the season. They could give Kansas City a run for their money, considering, we'll go into this in the AFC West, but, Patrick Mahomes hasn't always been sharp this season. So Tennessee loves to capture on turnover. So, I mean, I kind of think that Tennessee is one of those teams that, even though they're the number one seed, don't sleep on them to make a deep run or to, beat anybody in the AFC. I think they have a really good shot of going, as far as the Super Bowl for a lot of these teams. So.
Well, you won that one. There's really no question about it. The Titans won automatically put you over. I mean, I was right on the Colts, but I had the Titans obviously in the playoffs, but bad record. And honestly, I thought with Derrick Henry being injured, I thought maybe my prediction would come out a little bit better, but ended up not. So, oh well, no harm, no foul for me. But I have to win out basically to win. So you get one more of these, you win.
Cool.
But we'll still go through them all.
Let's nail this sucker.
Yeah. So, okay, Cody, why don't you go into the NFC South?
All right. So, of course, the division winner I had was Tampa Bay. I had them at a very modest 16-1. I really thought that Antonio Brown was going to keep it together. I thought that they were going to remain healthy and a perfect team. And I did say I don't want to go into micro points, but I did say that I thought that their only loss, if I had to predict an only loss in this season, was to the LA Rams. And they did lose to the LA Rams. I will point that out. But they subsequently lost 4 additional games as well with that. So it really just kind of threw this in the trash for me. I did predict that they'd win the division, but I mean, really, who else was going to win this division had it not been them? So anyway, so I had Tampa finishing at 16-1. They did not. I had the Saints. I'm actually very surprised with the Saints. This one looks a lot worse than it really is. I had them finishing only 4-13, and I think they finished like 8-9 or something like that.
They finished 9-8.
Oh, 9-8, even worse. Mm-hmm. So they finished 9-8, and I had them at 4-13. So I really ate curl on that one. This one's going to hurt a little bit. I had Atlanta only winning 2 games, 2-15, and they went, 5-13 or 6? Or
they went 7-10.
7-10. See?
Yeah.
And then Carolina, I had them only finishing at 6-11. And what did they finish at?
They finished at 5-12.
Okay, I just missed it. So anyways, the only thing I hit on was Tampa, but just because they won the division, I didn't come anything close to these records. I won't even say I got close to Carolina, even though it's only 1 game, because I was off on just about everything. So
I think I'm going to win this one.
Yeah.
just because of the Tampa Bay Buccaneer one, because I was so close. I had them at 14-3. They ended up being 13-4. So
there you go.
I'll take that one. I believe I had them at the number 1 seed, though. That's really the only difference. Yeah, I did. You had them at obviously the number 1 seed as well. So 16-1. I remember I thought it was crazy then. I was like, no, they're going to get some losses. And it was hard. I will say, though, I remember when I was doing my research on it, it was hard to find some losses, but I was like, you know what? I liked the Colts. The Saints, I really actually was high on Jameis Winston, but I wasn't really high on the defense. And honestly, I was kind of wrong about the defense. Defense ended up being really, really good. They were still a serviceable team, even with Taysom Hill. And I think we found out this year that Taysom Hill should not be the quarterback, for the future. I think it's obviously Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston was having a great year. Unfortunately, he got injured. That was really unfortunate. But then this is where I went wrong. The Carolina Panthers, I really liked them. I liked their defense. I liked their draft picks. I liked their receivers. I liked their, obviously, Christian McCaffrey. I liked Sam Darnold. And they ended up being 5-12. I had them at 9-8.
I'm going to accuse you of being a Sam Darnold lover. That's why you thought that they would be you thought that they were going to be that high. I'm going to just say it was because of Sam Darnold and that USC connection.
I will say I like Sam Darnold. Now I said when we were going over it, I'm not sure if he is going to do it, but I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he was with the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought Matt Rule and Joe Brady were going to do well. Well, I didn't know that Joe Brady was going to be fired mid-year, and now there's talks that Matt Rule could be fired later on. So there's always still that, but I did like Sam Darnold, but honestly, I like Christian McCaffrey. I didn't think he was going to get injured like he did last year, and he basically got injured early and stayed that way. I drafted him in one of our leagues, and when I had him, he was phenomenal. And when I didn't have him, it was old times.
Speaking of old times, you should have drafted Cam Newton. That'd have been just as good for you.
Yeah, next year, if I get Christian McCaffrey, I am also going to get a running back the very next round because I cannot do the relying on Christian McCaffrey again. Or if I do that, it's got to be with Dalvin Cook. So that way they can trade off their injuries. Yeah. Anyway, so then I had the New Orleans Saints. I had them at 5-12. They did 9-8. So kudos to them. I thought, I just didn't like their defense, like I said, and they ended up proving me way wrong. And I thought they were going to play a lot more Taysom Hill. And I didn't think Jameis Winston was going to be as good as he was. And I think Winston proved that he is going to be the quarterback for the Saints next year. And I mean, unless they go for a trade, but I think Winston really proved that he was a very, very reliable option. And he really wasn't turning the ball over that much either when he was in. So it'll be exciting to see them next year. The Atlanta Falcons, I had them being 5-12. They ended up being 7-10. So I wasn't too far off. But I wasn't a fan of Matt Ryan this year, just because they lost Julio Jones. That defense was god awful. And then the offensive line is really bad too. And they really had no running game this year. Cordell Patterson did pretty good, but he was the receiver / running back. So that helps a little bit. You can run some run plays, but make it look like a screen or something. So, but yeah, I think I win this one.
Yeah,
we were off on literally everything. So I'll take that one.
Even the division winner, I was off.